Alrighty, I have watched the 16-minute gameplay reveal of Hytale in its early access form, and there's a few things I want to talk about that were in that video, and a few things that I noted as I watched. The big one I noted is, one, this game has a gorgeous art style, like truly beautiful. I mean, I already knew this. We already knew this from all the screenshots over the years and even the trailer, but like just the raw gameplay itself, we can clearly see that like this game's art direction is very vibrant. It's very fantasy-like. The only thing I did notice is that there is a very big lack of clouds, which is a little strange, but I imagine it's probably just maybe it's a clear day outside, but I did notice like a very weird lack of clouds. Like, yeah, there are maybe a couple clouds, but it's like nothing. It's a little strange, but either way, very cool. And I think the biggest thing that this footage showed off was the combat. Combat in Hytale looks phenomenal compared to something like Minecraft, or even, something that I like much more, Vintage Story. Combat in Hytale looks like it's going to be fantastic. We have different weapons that attack in different ways. There are different fun animations that all look very, very satisfying. And I think that PvP and PvE are going to be amazing in this game. I think it's going to be probably like one of the most fun sandbox games in terms of combat, which I know a lot of people care about. So you take that plus like the art direction, and I think what we have here is like a potentially really, really, really interesting game that is very creative for a lot of people. Of course, there is the more interesting side of things for me, which is things like dungeons and other little world landmarks that all, of course, look very interesting. We see in the footage that our little player here goes through some camps, goes through some like caves, does some combat stuff, does some interesting moves, and it's all really, really well made and very nice looking. It's very clear that they worked very hard on this, and what they've even got from like leftover from Riot is very, very well made, and it's very nice. I think that like this excites me a lot because obviously I'm someone who really enjoys that kind of like external motivation and that external progression, which some might say is contrary to something like Minecraft, but that's a discussion for a different day. But I think that Hytale just looks fantastic in every sense. You have these big structures to explore. I'm sure they've got lots of loot in them, and there's all kinds of enemies you get to attack and fight, and it all looks really cool. And of course then there's like boss fights and stuff that you can take on, and I imagine that'll be a big part of all these different areas. And if my understanding is correct, this isn't like a world generated like Minecraft. It's kind of procedurally generated, and there are certain zones that have like particular layouts that are that pre-exist, and then when you load up a world, it kind of slots those zones in like different orders. That's the understanding that I have of it. Someone can correct me in the comments if I am wrong, but that's my understanding of the world generation. And this actually kind of reminds me a lot of I don't know if you guys have ever played it, but that game Trove. It's like a free-to-play kind of game, maybe a little bit similar, albeit far more simplistic in its kind of vibe. It's a very interesting game, and it does something kind of similar where there are zones that are just kind of out and about, and you can go to them. And I don't know if they're randomized, but they are there. I don't know how randomized they are, but either way, all the biomes look super interesting and unique. They all look very, very cool. But I want to talk about things that are more than just like the gameplay. Of course, we did get the prices. We have the base version of Hytale now for $20. This is the early access. You get $20 gets you early access to the game. Then of course for $35, I imagine you get some extra special stuff. And then for $70 is like the highest tier where you get the super duper special stuff that is probably very cool that I cannot afford right now. But maybe someday I'll pick it up whenever it comes out. Hopefully by the time it comes out, maybe I can pick up that super duper special version. But there is one thing in particular with Hytale that has me very, very excited for it, and that is of course one, kind of the live scripting, but also all of the tools and things that are available to creators. I am a huge fan of like creating my own stuff. As many of you know, I have a Minecraft server that is very, very much like not vanilla, but kind of vanilla. We try to make Minecraft as different as we can within the vanilla game, so there's no mods you have to download. You just play it and you go. It's a world set in floating islands. It's pretty cool, but that has nothing to do with Hytale, except that I would love to make a version of it in Hytale. I think that would be super, super cool. It looks like Hytale has a lot of promise, and just the fact that it can be done, like live scripting can be done while you're playing, among all of the other like tools that exist inside of Hytale to make creation so much easier is really, really cool to me, and I absolutely love it. I am so excited to like get my hands on these tools and try them out and try to make stuff. I fully expect that, yeah, you know, it's early access and stuff is going to be updating and stuff is going to break, but I think it would just be cool to be like one of the first people to kind of dive in and create something truly unique. And my biggest thing with that would be like if we can get some kind of like world edit, a similar thing in Hytale that we have like in Minecraft. Of course, world edit's a very popular mod, and I use it quite a bit. If we can get something like world edit in Hytale, I don't know, maybe it's like Vintage Story where world edit is kind of built in. Vintage Story's world edit is pretty cool, and it is kind of built in. But if we could get something like that, that'd be super, super sweet, and I would absolutely love that. But I think it would go a long way in like me creating another floating island world and me creating a custom experience, because I'd have to learn all the mechanics of Hytale first, and I want to, you know, see what Hytale does and see how I can kind of fit the magic of my server, my little Elysium Isles into it, and see how possible it is. But like, it looks like all their tools for like making NPCs and monsters and stuff is going to be pretty easy to like learn and use, and that's really, really exciting. That's one of the things I love about Vintage Story, is that their modeling and animation tools are all open source, so you can just go in there and just fiddle with however you want. That's pretty cool to me. I absolutely love that. But overall, looking at the gameplay itself, I'd say it's a very promising game. I look forward to getting it. I look forward to getting my hands on it and spending good old hard-earned cash on a product that seems very, very promising. I think the way they're doing it this time is obviously quite a bit better, letting people play it, letting people get their hands on it, you know, as they're developing it, means that the community is going to have much more of a say on what happens in this game, and I think it's going to be probably a real competitor to Minecraft. I imagine there are many, many, many people who are excited to download this, and I imagine that it will take time away from Minecraft. I think that people will be playing this game a lot once it's finished, and even when it's in early access, but I think it'll definitely like siphon some players off of Minecraft, which like competition in the space of art isn't good, but competition in like video games where it's a product and it's money and people are continuously playing it means that we'll see more innovation from hopefully from Mojang and from other games like it, like Vintage Story. Of course, Vintage Story has its own kind of Hytale-esque game mode coming out from ex-Hytale devs that they're working with the Vintage Story team now, so that's pretty cool. I'm excited for that too. I can't remember the name of it. I heard the name of it from a Vintage Story dev, and I can't remember what they call it, but there's like a fantasy version they're coming out with, like a cool thing closer to Hytale that's not quite the normal Vintage Story game. But anyway, this is supposed to be about Hytale, and I'm getting off track as I tend to do. But a lot of simple things look really good and really, really promising. Even looking at the UI, like the inventory stuff, it all looks very, very nice and very promising. I don't really have too much else to say about that. I wanted to make this video before I go on a trip. I'm going on a trip tomorrow, so I wanted to record this video real quick just to give you guys my thoughts on Hytale and what I plan on doing with it, because yes, I do plan on playing it, probably streaming it here and there, so subscribe and maybe become a member if you want to see those streams and you want to get access to all of my videos early. Anyway, that's it for today's video. I'll see you guys all in the next one. Bye bye.